Welcome everybody, Speak Up Monday, episode number 460. Now here's the thing, so we're in Bali as you know, and we're having one of the strongest rainy seasons I think in the last 8 years, definitely since I've been here. So if you start to see rain coming across the screen or you hear the delicate sound of rain smashing against the rooftop, don't adjust your set, it's us, not you, all right? That's the first thing. The second thing tonight, if you're interested in builders or building or property here in Bali, we have the founder, Gabe, over here, who's going to introduce himself in a minute, of Bali Builders. Now, Bali Builders is, I would say, the most populous and the fastest growing community when it comes to building in Bali. And, and again, very well organized, different categories, different groups. I put a few friends in there recently. They sing your praises. So we've got that. And then we've also got in the backdrop of that, why do people come to Bali, right? And most people will say it's for the culture. So obviously right now we have this interplay between building and culture, and whether building can be sustainable and maintain culture as opposed to maybe destroy nature, which we'll be getting into a little bit tonight. But let me just introduce our guest. So Gabe, an entrepreneur and business leader who has lived in Bali for nearly 3 years, and Gabe specializes in positive impact business growth. I like the positive impact. His expertise lies in fostering and scaling purpose-driven communities while ensuring sustainability and authenticity. And as we know, tonight is all about how, if you're able to start a problem-led community, it can often grow pretty fast and become one of the fastest, I guess, quickest, largest, just literally by choosing the right topic. So Gabe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Everything you said is correct. So, communities are a powerful thing. I come from a marketing background, and also in here I'm the CEO of Warriors of the Divine. We're a fashion label in Ubud, and we are a pretty large company. We ship to about 65 countries a year, and marketing and Meta, Facebook and Instagram are a very large part of our business, which is sort of like the flip side of community building. From a marketing point of view and a business point of view, I see where when you have a strong community, it can really help grow your purpose and your brand much larger and further than you usually can these days with Facebook and Instagram advertising. So that's sort of the basis of everything, and then we can keep the conversation going from there.
Well, look, let's go somewhere else on purpose then.
All right.
So look, obviously you have a great accent here. So where are you from? And then I think the question that comes up is, growing up as a kid, where you were born, were there any indications in your life that were kind of leading you towards a journey that you're on now? And if so, what were they?
So that I am American.
Where?
I grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is where I've spent most of my life, a pretty random and off the beaten path place. It's a territory of the United States, and the only other place in the world that has the same status as the Virgin Islands is Guam. It's just east of Puerto Rico, which is, I think, technically a Commonwealth. It's a little... they're parts of the United States, but they don't have a full statehood status, so they're pretty unique places to live and grow up. And now, so I spent a lot of my life there. I've traveled around the Caribbean. I think traveling is sort of in my DNA. My parents were traveling a lot. They moved to the Caribbean when I was 3. So it's sort of been in my DNA to be in these warm type weather places and exploring. Now, the whole journey to Bali was a long one. My wife and I started about 6 years ago, I think. We had been living in Miami, Florida for several years, and decided to sort of do the digital nomad thing before it was so popular, before COVID. And it was a thing, but not as big as what it was. And we started traveling. Got to a few countries, and long story short, as we got to Australia, I spent 2 amazing months there, and pretty much when we were about to leave is when COVID started. So we decided to stay in Byron, in Australia. We were up in the Byron Bay area, and had a great 2.5 years there. And then,
for those of you who don't know where Byron is, obviously in Australia, but Byron has very similarities to Bali.
yeah.
So Byron and Bali, there's some similarities there, just so you know.
Yeah. So we had a great time there. And it's sort of like here it came down to a visa thing in the end. We had been on these long-term yearly tourist visas, but they had some limitations on children going to school, and it sort of just came to the end of our period there. And so that's when we came to Bali, and I thought visas and things like that were going to be a lot easier here. Not quite true. So as you all know, and that was almost 3 years ago.
Wow.
And then we came here. We had 2 children at that time.
Yeah.
And we came here, and my wife was pregnant, and we had a baby daughter who was born in Bali. So she's spent her whole life here. She's happy, and all the kids are happy. And so, that's the short version of a long story.
Short version, long story.
Full of adventures and unique places.
All right, so let's backtrack. So the other part of that question was like, okay, growing up as you did, Island man, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So were there any indications, right, growing up as a kid? Because again, part of this is people inspire people. So quite often it's moments which become defining moments when you look back, that you look back and say, oh, well, that was a moment actually. That was one. And it's almost like you pull like a thread and lots of things come with it, tentacles, right? So my question then, rephrased in a different way, is so you have this ability to be technical, right, from what you've just said. Also this ability now to build a community. So for some people it might be, okay, a guy who presents possibly as an introvert is building a community of which is an extrovert tendencies, people may ask. That's one. And then 2, so what inspired that move? So as a kid, were you adventurous? Were you taking risks? Were you a crazy guy? Tell us.
You know, I wish there was I had some great, amazing answer to this, but really I am pretty introverted, and I don't have this amazing answer, except it goes back to communities or even businesses, which can be really solution oriented towards a problem or problem oriented. Yeah. In my career, the businesses that have done the best, when I look back, have always been the ones that just solved a direct problem. And that's just when, from the SEO point of view, to a market ad spend point of view, to the community point of view, it's just life was a lot easier. It's a more technical answer. And yeah, growing up, I can look back at all these things, but it's all related. But in communities, I'm evolving towards communities. I'm not this person that, like I said, has some great answer, an eloquent answer, but really it's just that when you have a solution to a problem, and tends to be the more niche it can be, the easier it is to foster a community.
You know, I get all that. I'm going to push it to a side because you know me. Here's the thing, right? You came to Bali, as you said, you started to build, and then you noticed that you encountered certain challenges and certain problems, out of which you then decided, hey, well, you didn't even decide. It's like, let me put a group together, right, and see if anyone, and so go through that journey, because I think it's important for people to hear. Yeah. Because what they may hear is that, again, I'm an introvert, introvert and extrovert. My introvert is one that has more power. It's not the extrovert, it's the introvert, because it is one that can see patterns and so on and so on. So I want people to see this part of it. Yeah,
that's a great insight. Bali Builders was started with 3 people. Me, or myself, my wife, myself, and one other random person from another group. Because we were building a villa here, and we had lots of questions. We'd only been here maybe 6 months or so. Definitely didn't speak the language. Didn't even know where Mitra 10 was. Didn't know all these stores like that we know now. Didn't know where to buy toilets. Didn't know anything. And so it just started with the 3 of us. And what I think is powerful about that is when you scroll through Instagram or you're on Facebook, there's always somebody selling this something. And there's always this temptation, and you feel like you have to have this big community. And if it doesn't start from 0 to 1,000 in the first week, that you're a failure and you don't really have a great idea. But looking back on Bali Builders, it started with 3 of us, and it stayed for, surprisingly, I mean, it just stayed for 3 of us for, I don't know, a month or 2, because it was never meant to be a group that grew. It was just, we had to name the group because WhatsApp makes you put a name, and my wife put Bali Builders. What else are we going to call it? That's what it is. From there, like a couple weeks later, we happened to be in there and saw that had 5 people. And we're like, wow, 4 other people or 3 other people want to be part of this community. And then again, several weeks later, all of a sudden it's 10 people. And then it just kept growing from there. And it was just this thing that there was answers, and it just, people had questions and the community had answers. So that's where this growth can come from, when you're really solving a problem. And it's not about, am I reaching this goal fast enough? Am I putting enough money or thought into it, kind of thing, where there's, because that shiny object syndrome, we didn't have to deal with that because that wasn't the intention. The intention was just about that, really solving that problem and being there for the community, not trying to sell something to it.
But here's the thing, like, by the way, the fellas in the back, my brothers, in a minute, goes, just let these guys to be quiet, because we can hear their voices. So here's the thing that makes me smile, right? Which I find a lot in Bali when talking to people, right? Is that you didn't set out to do this, right? It was as a consequence of. So some people here may think, hey, I've got to have this plan. I've got to know what I'm going to A to Z before I start. I've got to be ready, right? No, not true. That also works, but not for him. So what it was, as he was saying, was that, that they had questions themselves. It wasn't supposed to be for other people. 3 people in the group, right? And then, so through doing this, it grew organically, and you weren't setting out to start a community. So again, people inspire people. So people which are here, Hadis, the guys at the back, can you ask them just to be quiet? Thank you, because we can hear them, right? So you didn't set out to do that, and that's what I want people to get here. That, I mean, same for me. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing now because I just followed the energy and the passion, and then one thing led to another, that led to another, that led to another, and then I'm here. So tell us a little bit more about that, just so people can get more of an inside scoop.
I mean, it goes back to what is something you're very knowledgeable about, and probably what your hobbies are, or what you're knowledgeable about. Or like, there was an example of rentals in the area WhatsApp group. Like, you're solving a problem and it's something you know about. I think there has to be an authenticity aspect to it. That's extremely important. So to go from, like, just starting things at which you're familiar with. And if you are trying to build a community for a business purpose or a personal purpose, but it's something that you're authentic, you can have a lot of knowledge about and be authentic about. It just allows for that natural growth, in my experience.
Funnily enough, the second takeaway was about authenticity. So look, it's grown now to over 1,000, right, in a short period of time. So then maybe the question is, then how do you stick to it? Because you're saying before, you don't sell, you're not, like making money from it, you're not any of these things that maybe people think, well, you're making money from this, you're putting some time in, like, where's the return? So with all of these different threats that come in to make money, to maybe stand up with the ego, hey, I've built the biggest builder group in Bali, how do you stay grounded, and how do you stay connected, and how do you stay authentic to what it is?
Great question, because I do get approached quite a bit about, hey, how about taking the group here and offering this service or offering this or that. It happens quite on a regular basis. Somebody's reaching out to me with some idea, and some of them are really good ideas, but they haven't quite felt right. Now, at the end of the day, most communities have to evolve eventually to making money. They don't have to, but if you want to have that personal freedom, which we're all living in Bali, we all want some level of that personal freedom. It will evolve to something one day. I think it's going to be more about, and this is where I think, like, if you have a business and you have a community that's part of it, it's not always selling to that community. It's bringing values to the people's life who are part of that community. But specifically towards Bali Builders, I think there's going to be some business or idea that's tangentially related to it. And it's not directly selling to the community, but it's something that maybe it's a service being offered and we're just one of the other service providers, or maybe there's some type of SaaS company that those are people wanting some help. Like there was a gentleman at the meetup we did last week who started one of Bali's first mortgage companies. He can go through all the details of it, but again, there's a whole community here, and there's a lot of people interested in mortgages in Bali. So I'm not going to start a mortgage company, but something like that.
He told me off camera, I'm starting a mortgage company. I'm going to be in competition to this guy. I'm going to kick his butt. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that.
That was top secret. So, I mean, it's going to be something like that. And I think I don't know if this is where you're going to take this, but I think like for Warriors of the Divine, we haven't done enough with community over the years. And I'm taking this little path here, but tangentially related, but from a business point of view, and it's something we started to work on, is building a community, because advertising costs just grow and grow, and email gets more and more flooded, and it's hard to always stand out. We have a unique product. They're these silk kimonos with large angel wings on the back, so they make a very large fashion statement. But even with that on Facebook, sometimes it's hard to just stand out. The costs go up and the conversion rates go down over time. And so whereas community where people can engage, again, we set it up sort of like Bali Builders, where there's different sections and people can engage in different ways. It's about just allowing a community to be heard, the people to be heard, ask questions, because a lot of people who have, even taking Bali Builders, most of their friends, like if you're in it building a villa, most of your friends probably are not building a villa also. So you can't ask your friend, hey, where did you buy your toilet? Or things like that. So when you have a community, it's where people can go and ask something that might not be able to ask their friends and family, or just be heard in a unique way. So I think that's where communities also allow things to happen.
Now, by the way, where's Christian? So the guy who sat down in the back is from Alex Villas. He would not want me to say that. That's why I say it on camera. Don't worry, he's coming back. So if you want to have a chat about that, have a chat to him. Two ladies over here, you'd have to leave soon. Microphone, Brother Guzman, all right? So I'm going to give you the microphone. Yeah, I know you're looking at me saying, I don't want the microphone. I don't want it. It's okay. It's going to sit next to you. So before you leave, if you have a question, just put your hand up, okay? That's either one of you two, all right? Cool. All right, so we've got, not monetizing communities. We've done that. Wonderful. So here's the thing, Gabe. So it's pretty simple for people to see. You're a pretty soulful guy who's down the line, right? Down to earth and so on, right? You moved to Bali, as you said, in a way it wasn't supposed to be on purpose, right? You're here with a family, beautiful wife, kids, and so on, right? People are looking from all over the world now. So Bali is known for its culture. In your building group, recently in Bali, we've had this whole talk about a moratorium which didn't succeed, which I think people knew wouldn't succeed. But that's not the point. The point is that we understand that this island is very unique, very special. We understand that, that with tourism, it's difficult to go to indigenous populations and say, hey, well, we're doing this, but you shouldn't do that. Because, if you do, then you're going to ruin what you have already, and you don't want to do that. But it's okay that I do it. Right? So within your group, again, you're a soulful, beautiful man. So I get where it's coming from. But there may be people who are building things which maybe are not necessarily in harmony with Bali. So then my question to you is that, like, where do you sit in this, not debate, but where do you sit in terms of development, culture? How does it work for you?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And to be honest, it's probably not something I've thought of enough, and definitely not engaged in the group enough on this topic. So it's something I'm going to take. I have an answer for you, but I am going to take it back and do some self-reflection on this topic, because it is probably something we can encourage more of some things and encourage less of the others. Because, Bali is a place with immense culture, which is why a lot of people come here and a lot of people enjoy it and love it. But I think one of the issues in all this building is in Bali is what I at least call the white box syndrome. Or the white box issue. Everyone's just building white boxes, and it is a issue that plagues the world. It's not just here. I've seen it all over the world, and it's something that I get it. I get it from a financial point of view, why people want to build a white box, because they're maximizing their ROI on the space. They're going to build up to the edge, a wall, and maximize space. Square footage, because square footage sells. And so, but it's something that as a community and as the leader or the owner of Bali Builders, is probably a conversation I should be pushing more of, is to encourage people to stop, look around at their local community, seeing what's there, and then build around that. And there are some people building amazing villas that are not white boxes, but there are still a lot of white boxes. And at the end of the day, most of them are all some variation of a white box. Maybe they don't paint it white, but it doesn't still quite fit into that neighborhood. And so that is definitely a topic that probably needs to be discussed more everywhere around the world, but definitely in Bali amongst everybody, because I'm sure that conversation is happening very little. And there's no incentive to have the conversation. And so that's something that there's no financial, well, at least I'm aware, there's very little financial incentive for a developer to have that conversation. They're just their goal is to make money, which that is what it is, but it is a conversation that probably needs to happen a lot more. Something I will.
You know, respect to you, right? Because I mean, a lot of people, human beings, who have an ego, is like, yeah, I'm doing this, right? Or it's a case of saying, having an answer that's perfectly curated and perfectly scripted to do it. But you're an honest guy, and you're saying, look, this is something which I realize now I need to reflect upon, and then take action from there. And as I understand it, you started to do these meetings now, which are monthly meetings, or tell us a little bit about those, just for those people here in Bali that might want to join.
Yeah, so Bali Builders has been around about 2 years, and so the idea, and it is a very active online community, but taking that offline, having meetups, basically they're meetup style events, and we had our first one, well, we technically had one about a year ago, somebody else hosted it, but this was our first Bali Builders meetup, was this past Wednesday. And there was about 15 people there. So it's a place where people come, meet, put some faces to the names, because there is a lot of engagement in the group. And so just having those conversations in person, and everything is just relationships grow and foster more once you can start putting some faces to the names. So I like this topic. And so this is like, as part of the agenda style to meet up, we did it. I'm trying to do it where there's some structure to the event, not just come and socialize, have some beers, and that's it. But actually having a speaker in the beginning, having some meetup structure to it, so people can really build those. It's sort of like more of like a networking event, not a go hang out, have some drinks kind of thing. And so I like this topic is probably bringing up this topic, figuring out how to bring it up and have that conversation going. How do we get people to build more? I don't know the right phrase, but less white boxes and something more that meshes in with the community more.
One thing which I found, thanks again, we don't script anything over here, by the way. We just go with it. There's a few takeaways, but that's about it. One thing which I found that really works, right? So I created a few communities, as you know. One is called a Tabanan community. And what it is, it's about 300 plus at the moment, but it's only for Tabanan. And it's a mixture of local government, royal families, those who have bought property there, those who have businesses there, those who have foundations, charities, schools there. So it's really designed, curated for that. And so I love threes, as you know. I love threes, everybody. Threes are great. And so what I've noticed, having built these different communities, is that there's this rule of three. What it is, it goes like this. So when you invite people from the community to a place which is, maybe they're building something, let's say it's eco lodge or eco retreat. What happens is that the first thing is that people see each other. So maybe a guy in a group wants to build a 10-story concrete white box, right? That's what he wants because it's his life's work in the middle of a rice paddy. That's his view. Okay, so what happens is that he'll come and he'll meet someone, and you don't know who this is, but he'll meet someone, and there's a connection there because humans inspire each other, right? So that's the first point, is to connect. The second point is then to learn from each other. So being that, and we do this on a month-by-month basis, being that you're in an eco lodge, and then you go for a tour, you go for a walk around it, and then you get to see that they're making their own hydroelectric power from this waterfall. Over here, they're completely integrated into the local community, which have got this beautiful interplay with the venue as it's an extension of them. So that might be cultural activities, it might be tours, it might be walks into nature, it might be learning about what plants you can eat, which ones you can't, and so on and so on and so on. So that second part is we now learn from each other. And then the third part that happens naturally is there will be those, and it's not all of them, but you only need a few that will then work with each other. So number one, I see you. Number two, I learn from you and realize, wow, this thing is possible. And number three, why don't we do this together? And this has happened so often. And what I found very often is that the guy who wants to come in and build a 6-story white box in concrete realizes the impact that may have by connecting with someone who's there. And then realizes, well, hang on a second, what I actually really want to do is in harmony with Bali. And I can see that Wayan over here, or Detlev over here, or whoever it is, has done something beautifully in harmony with nature. Trihita Kanana, nature, is in alignment with God. Culture, customs, traditions, religions, is in harmony with nature, regenerative systems, policies, and practices, and is also in line with human-to-human prosperity. So there's a prosperity cycle that's working here that creates a sustainability for you and I. So that Trihita Karana works beautifully here. So I think that's one thing that you might be able to explore if it touches you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people in Bali Builders are probably in 1 and 2. I don't think there's much of that third part, if I understood it all correctly yet, but it's knowing that and being open, now learning about that, something towards evolution towards that, evolving towards it. I think you bring up an interesting point from the beginning, though. What is, I think you said the word tourism. And where does tourism fit into all this? And so I think, in my opinion, having spent a lot of time in the Caribbean, which has a lot of tourism, I think tourism at the end of the day is usually a pretty bad thing. I think politicians love to say, hey, we're bringing in these resorts, we're going to have all these great jobs, and they always promise all these things. But in the end of the day, a lot of the society doesn't really learn anything. They end up staying at these low-wage salaries and working in cleaning things and working on maintenance, and it doesn't ever really bring in this big thing. So I think and obviously Bali has immense levels of tourism, and so I think, and that brings people here who build, and it's this cycle. But it will be interesting to see over the long run, 10, 20, 50 more years, how it all works out. Because I've seen it in other places where it never really, like I said, politicians love to say, hey, I'm creating 5,000 more jobs or 100,000 more jobs, but they always forget to tell you they're pretty low-level jobs that don't really, they're keeping people employed, but they're not elevating society. They're just sort of keeping a strong, and unfortunately strong lower level. And so that'll be interesting, I think, over time to see how Bali handles that, and thus how that fits into development in Bali. Because that's what brings people here, and then they fall in love with the culture and a lot of other aspects. But then if that starts decelerating, and maybe there's a push for higher, I think I see the phrase sometimes, higher quality or higher income tourism, which can be great. Oh, I don't know about great, but does that in the end help or hurt the culture of Bali? I don't know, but these are things I'm observing and will pay attention to for a long time.
So there's one question I've got for you, and I've got a question for our audience here. So the question I'm going to ask you is that, being that you've been around the Caribbean, being that, again, you're a well-traveled guy, being that, the introvert is powerful because it has an opportunity to identify patterns and trends and sees behavior over a period of time. So my question to you would be, based on what you've just said, you've got about a minute to think about this. So how would you, if you had that job of developing Bali, if it's inevitable, how would you, or which pillars, one or two, would you hang it on to kind of say, well, these are the areas where I see opportunity to do things in a sustainable way. This one here, I see the opportunity to do that in a way that has an opportunity not to overwhelm local resources, and so on and so on and so on. You've got a minute to think about it. So people in the audience, questions. So if there's questions coming up, there's a microphone somewhere around here. Feel free just to raise your hand. And look, you'd be in maybe one of three places. Is that, maybe we've covered that before. It's okay. Ask it, because you probably haven't. Number two may well be that, hey, I'm a bit embarrassed and a bit shy about asking a question. Well, tell the friend sitting next to you to answer on your behalf. Or number three, like you know what the question is, so put your hand up and just ask it. So going back to your question, I'm going to give you a little bit of support here, right? So we have an MOU with Jatilui, right? Jatilui is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's for the rice terraces in Tabanan. It's beautiful, right? They also won the best tourism village in the world. UNTO is the United Nations Tourism Office. They're a client, they're a friend, they're amazing. There's three things we're doing. One of them is to support smart farming initiatives to empower the next generation of farmers coming up. Number two is, how do we extend the tourism assets in the area so it's not just people come on a coach and they take some photos, they maybe grab a bite to eat and leave. It's how can they extend their stay. And number three is about attracting to the hinterland businesses with heart. This means the Tri Hita Karana that I explained before. They're more in line with that, right? People like Sensatia have got an incredible system of supporting, empowering people, Balinese people, okay? And again, it's not that we empower you. No, it's an exchange. There are things that I know that you don't. There are things that you know that I don't. It's an exchange. It's not to say that I'm better or I'm worse than you. We're the same, right? Okay, just in time.
When I think about this topic, I think there's two aspects to it. I think there's everything you said, where on the ground it's building sustainable communities and businesses and practices like in that area. And then I think there's a flip side on the government side of things. Yeah. I think when you start having tons of low-cost carriers, low-cost flights coming in, you're just bringing in volumes. I think at the government level, I'm just speaking my own opinion here, when you have the JetBlues, the Scoots, like that's at a high level have decided, okay, we're going to flood the Bali market because they're only going to issue the license for those Scoots, not just going to start flying here by themselves. I think there's a conversations being had somewhere that said, okay, we're just going to flood the market kind of thing with low-cost flights from all over the world. And so that creates a volume, which, it creates a budget-oriented traveler who might not be interested in all the things the community that you were talking about has interested in. They might be interested more in the beach, the partying, some of the tattoo part, come get a tattoo, have a beer, watch a game kind of thing, not the cultural aspect. So I think there's two aspects to it. There's one, building, there's often the chicken and egg scenario, I think, with these types of things, because you need to build these types of communities, places that you're talking about, thus the tourists will come. But often you can't get the tourists to come if you don't have that community and aspects built. So I think going forward, if you and plenty of other people can keep building these types of places, and I'm not saying building from the ground up, but making sure these types of beautiful, unique places are existing, then over time they will attract that type of tourist. And so the lower budget tourists will sort of just phase out because there will be more demand for these more, I'm not going to say premium from a price point of view, but premium from a cultural experience point of view.
Got it. So for the lady over here, you, my darling, there's a few things, right? Because you mentioned today that you're coming in as something that you know you're going to pick up. It might be one of these things that we're talking about now. So there's 3 things, right, which I quickly want to say. So one is, it's really important that we support those who are doing things which are in harmony. So one company is called Astung Karaway. So they do 2 things. One is farming. And now these are young Indonesian kids. Not kids, I'm just saying because I'm a little bit older. They're young people. The average age of a farmer in Bali is about 60 years of age. So the next generation coming up don't necessarily want to be farmers because the financials aren't on par with tourism. So generally they can leave the village and go and grab a tourism job, right? So Astung Karaway do 2 things which are important. So one is they've found a way to expand and to optimize the revenue that you can create from an ara or a meter or a hectare of farmland. Number one. Number 2, on the tourism side, they've created what is called Astung Karaway trails. These trails are basically walking tracks throughout Bali. And here's the thing. So there's 3, I can't help it. 3 things. So one is that on these trails, it starts off, generally speaking, on the road, where the urban environment is, where it can be a bit chaotic. The next part of the walk, which over 8, 9, 10 days, the next part of the walk is it starts to head towards nature. So you go from chaos into harmony, right? This is important because as human beings, this is what we do. Just in general, with decisions that we make, things that we do, patterns that exist, right? When you think about it. So, and as part of this, they also, as you're going through, education on the plant, the flora, the fauna, within what can I live off? What can I eat? What can I not eat? So you're going through this spiritual experience, actually, where you're learning not only about Bali and how you interact with it, but also, how your actions, building a villa, doing this, impact it at the same time, right? And where you end up, you have a series of huts or places where you can stay along the way, where they have educative locals educating you about what's happening locally. So it's phenomenal. It's multi-leveled. It's beautiful, man. Right? Astung Karaway. Right? So that's one. The second one, which Detlev's looking at me, I can feel him. Right? Indonesia. My wife is Indonesian. Kids are half Indonesian, half Australian. Right? Even though I'm born in London. I've mentioned Tri Hita Karana, which is this 3 roads to harmony, 3 roads to prosperity. Human to God, human to environment, and human to human prosperity. Another one is Gotong Royong. So Gotong Royong is another great philosophy in Indonesia, which for me is a world philosophy. Okay, I'm from the UK. Motto we'll get to after. So Gotong Royong is the community coming together to solve a challenge facing the community, right? So it's hand in hand. It's how do we challenge and how do we solve problems facing all of us together. Okay, very powerful word. And the final one is Bhinneka Tunggal Ika. So Bhinneka Tunggal Ika is a motto of Indonesia, which means unity and diversity, roughly, right? So when you think about Gotong Royong as a coin, one side is Gotong Royong, the community coming together to solve a challenge facing the community. The other side of it is it's empowered by unity and diversity. So when you look at the world now, and you've spoken about tourism, and you've spoken about these other macro challenges that we're facing right now, I think the world is right now at that point, as is Bali, where we need to work together. So if you think of those three things, gotong royong, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, Tri Hitakarana. So you have the ways to work together, then you have the guide for you to recognize if what you're doing is in harmony with nature. And this is, again, Indonesia for me leads the world in this. So it's something that can be adopted globally. And it's come from here. It's empowered by Indonesia. So when you hear these sorts of things, I can see you smiling. And man,
I find it. I don't know much about any of those, but I think I've heard of bits and pieces of some of them. I find it very interesting, and I think you're on about the macro topic, and I think it's a big macro topic affecting the world in many positive and negative ways. But it looked like you were going to ask a question. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. So my question is to the audience as well as to you, and let's see who comes first, right? So when you hear these philosophies that I'm sharing with you, even to you, my Jakarta sister, right? What feeling comes up when you're sitting in Bali and you hear me speak about these things? Where do you think we sit at the moment as a community with some of these challenges that we've spoken about tonight? And that's open to, yes, sister over here. So we'll give her the microphone, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, guys. My name is Almira. Absolutely love the conversation we're having here. Obviously, you guys are both leaders of the community, and I believe with power comes responsibility, you know? And it's up to us to have these conversations of like, hey, how can we make this ecological? And with all the philosophies you've mentioned, I have not heard of these terms, but once again, like yourself, I'm very familiar with the concepts, and I believe, you know, according to Vedic philosophy, right, the Dark Ages and the Golden Ages are happening simultaneously, and I believe there's a huge chunk of people, whether it's in Bali or worldwide, that are very conscious of the fact of the interconnectedness of all things and all beings, and are operating out of, you know, win-win-win solutions. And I believe it's exactly what we already are doing. That's the solution, coming together of like-minded individuals that are conscious and embodying what is it that we're talking about, because philosophies are philosophies. Until you actually act on them and embody them, it's pointless, right? So I believe where we're sitting at is we need to talk to each other. There are so many people that are heart-led, that are doing amazing things in the world, but like you mentioned, the third point, the prosperity of coming together and creating harmony, even when it comes to finances, I think that's a big conversation we need to have in Bali community, because one of the things I notice a lot in Bali is this is one of the highest energetic land in the world, right? And everything is so polarized. One of the tendencies that I see very polarized, you know, like the wounded masculines of the world are like extremely agitating to the T, and the people that are into like aesthetics, I don't even know how many surgeries they've had, and the spiritually bypassing people, spiritual ego also exists to another level. And the thing is, a lot of times the people that don't come together and talk about, hey, how can we turn all the philosophies we know, the wisdom we know, the laws of nature, the laws of the universe we know to create abundance in physical sense, that's when we're going to thrive, because we all got to eat, like you mentioned, right? And we can either manipulate energy with meta, with strategy and all the tips or tricks, or we can be like, hey, we can work with nature, we are nature. So let's have these conversations of how do we actualize them. And like you mentioned, you know something I don't, I know something you don't. So I believe the solution is already happening, and I love the fact that, you know, this land also has amazing karma, right? Like instant karma. What you put out is what you get back. So the people that are already operating in harmony are getting it back, just like the Bali Builders. It came from a place of service. People have questions, let's solve it. And now there's 300 people. And when you are ready to commercialize it, there's hundreds of ways, and people know, like, and trust you. It's so easy. But I believe the war is internal. The war is internal, and it's about harmonizing within itself and connecting with one another.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to add to that? Anyone feeling something?
Thank you.
Yeah, round of applause for a start. Love that. Thank you, sister.
This is a topic I'm very passionate about, so somebody take the microphone away, please.
All right, take it, quick, take it. She's gonna go. All right. So when you hear something like that, what comes up for you?
I think it goes back to what I said early on, where communities can start with just 3 people.
Yeah.
And you take those ideas and apply them to the macro world. And a lot of these conversations, there's a lot of craziness happening in the world, obviously, and there's definitely not enough conversations happening on the big topics around the world. But maybe it's just a couple people here or a couple communities here or there having these conversations. But maybe it's in 3 years. I'm just saying some point in the future where it went from 3 people having the conversation to 300 to 3,000 to 30,000. That's how the world will evolve and grow. And I think it's same way Bali Builders started with just 3 people. A lot of these world problems and a lot of topics you talked about will just, because communities happen, and we have all these online communities. Maybe there's something with fostering other communities to come together and just keep growing. And it's not about now and how fast, but just naturally these conversations happen more and more, and bigger topics that are around the world to get solved, or at least talked about. Maybe not solved, but at least talk about them in a just real quick, but in a non-political and a non-polarizing way, but just people to people talking to each other. And that, I think, hopefully over time will solve a lot of these things plaguing the world.
Thank you for everybody's input. There's a book called Soul of America. I had no idea what I'm going to talk about this tonight. Soul of America, John Meacham. And look, he's a historian that goes back in time to help solve what we're facing now. Okay? I won't go... The bit which I want to get real close to is this. So... Again, we're talking about creating opportunities, communities which are in demand that then allows them to grow quickly. Here's one. So what I've noticed, and you can help me out here, is that, maybe years ago when I was growing up, if you had a disagreement with someone, you didn't see eye to eye, it would be like, we can just go and do this together anyway. Let's not talk about that anymore because, it's going to end in an argument. Let's go over here and let's do something that we can connect on with each other, right? Playing sport, whatever it might be. Then we kind of shuffle forward, and it's the whole cancel culture, right? So it's like, well, I don't like what you're saying. You're out of my phone. You're out of my life. I don't want to see you again. Get out, right?
You got unfollowed.
There you go, right? Done. Now, so this is talking about that, because whatever the community that you build or thinking about, I think it comes down to these things, which is 3 steps, right? So, and this is getting back to the book. Also, what I've been following for years anyway, is the first thing is that if I'm talking to this, I keep coming to you because you're right in front of me, lady in white, right? So let's say that we have diametrically opposed viewpoints on something, right? So let's say I decide, hey, I need to get past this. So let me suspend what I believe, put it to a side. So I'm going to ask you certain questions to discover what kind of childhood or how did you grow up? Because if I understand part of this, then I understand where the ideology has come from just through asking you certain questions about how you grew up, right? So where we arrive now is in a place called humility, which is saying, well, you know what? If I had the experiences that she did, I grew up in kids' homes for 17 years and blah, 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 blah. If I had the same experiences as she did and had those same defining moments, then probably I would think the same way and hold the same viewpoint, if not further, right? Okay, now we get to empathy. So if I can see that, okay, I've asked this person some questions, I get a sense of where they're coming from. Now I understand it. If I had the same way of growing up, I'd probably be similar, if not further. Empathy dictates, well, at least now I can get to, in their belief system, not that I still believe them, but in their belief system, they have a point. So if I can get to that, now healing can happen and now a conversation can happen because now I've respected and accepted you as an equal. Not to say that I believe your point of view, but I can understand why you hold it, right? So when you hear something like this, being Bali Builders, whatever the community that you build and so on, like this part of human-to-human interaction, what comes up for you?
So I think maybe I thought about this after we talked about this a couple of weeks back, and
we had a deep conversation. This guy goes deep, by the way, but I didn't know we were going to go there tonight, but whatever.
All right, so Robert's great. I think when you have, I'm going back to the technicalities of a community. Like I'm going to talk about Bali Builders. We all have different opinions about the world. We all have different beliefs, and that's what makes us human. But when you have something like Bali Builders, or even like if there was a group, how to quit smoking in Bali, or just anything that's this problem solution, a lot of those by nature fall away. And a lot of that, if whatever differences you have just don't really matter. Like, and I see that like in Bali Builders, there's little to no political debates because that's not the place for that. It's Bali Builders. It's about building villas. And so in a community that has some type of common theme, like, or even if you went into a political community, everyone it doesn't matter a lot of factors, but they're there to support that political belief or whatever that belief of that community is. And so these things are important, but I feel that in certain communities like a Bali Builders or how to quit smoking in Bali, a lot of those things naturally fade away. And then it allows for genuine, where I'm taking all this, I guess, is it allows for genuine conversations because it's not, you don't have to check those ideas at the door. You're not even going to have that idea because you're in there to talk about building villas. You don't care what their political belief is or any other topic, because if your aircon is broken and the roof is leaking, you want somebody to come fix it. You don't care where that answer comes from because it's not even a consideration. You're not going to say, I'm not going to take your answer because I know you have this political belief or whatever this thing is. Those things sort of get checked at the door. That's the best thing I can think of.
Man,
so it helps that.
I love that. Any other questions over here? Yeah. So the microphone's there somewhere. Yeah.
I've got something to add and I've got a question, and I would love your support. What I would love to add is I think the more we are authentic, the big topic you guys focused on, because I believe people are afraid of going deep.
A bit close to you.
People are afraid of going deep, and that's what the problem is, right? Because when people start realizing we're all just a mirror to each other, they stop judging. If I judge you, I'm judging myself. Everything I can see in you, I have within me, right? But people don't have conversations like this because they have an idea of what a space is supposed to sound like or be like. And authenticity really is the key, right? So I think it's about creating harmony within and really being truthful to ourselves, removing the emotions of how I feel about this aspect of me. Like, we all have the smoker within. Like, we all have the tendency to indulge. We all have all of these tendencies, and it's about shadow work, right? So love the conversation you guys are having here, and please keep going deep everywhere you go. That's how we get people out of the spiritual closet. And my question to you is building community and solving problems. So I had a bit of a different approach. For me, rather than solving a problem, there are many problems my community or I am solving. What I focused on was value alignment, right? Because my mindset was the same. If I can get a room of people together that care about the same shit, all of the differences will fall away because we care about something bigger. But what I found is that having a community, although we've got different channels going on, with people from different walks of life, number one, the energies can be very different. Number two, people find that from the feedback I've gotten, is that there is no reference point for people to connect with each other. Right now, my community, there are a lot of people contributing. I myself share lots of values, personal stories, vulnerabilities, but it's been like pulling teeth out of people for them to connect with one another. But they're in my DMs all day, every day, and I'm just like, just talk to each other. You will love each other too. So how would you encourage people that are from different walks of life but have similar values, and if we put them in the same room, they will all be besties? How do we encourage that in an online space for people to, engage?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think on some fundamental level, there are different types of communities. I mean, there is something like Bali Builders, which is a very, I keep saying it, but problem solution oriented. Like, you're there with a problem and you need a question from the community. And then there are types of communities that are spiritual based or lifestyle based. And I think that's probably where you're asking your question from, is how do you foster that engagement when it's not, people are being brought together because of some type of lifestyle belief. but not necessarily a problem solution. And not one is not better than the other. They're just different types of communities.
Sorry to interrupt you. They do have problems, but they come to me.
But they have multiple
Rather than the
problems.
community.
Yeah, okay. Probably what I would do first is definitely ask ChatGPT. I'd fill this in and give it a bunch of information, explain your problem, and see what it says. Come up with ideas and tell you, I like that idea, I don't like that idea. That's where I would start. But I think also, when I think about this from a marketing point of view or maybe a business point of view, is how do you get those people there in the first place? Maybe it's tightening up if this is part of a business, maybe tightening up the focus of the business or of the community, so you're getting people more focused around, because you said problems, plural. Maybe it's just too many problems. Maybe the group is just too diverse. Like Bali Builders is not a Indonesia Builders. It's not about building in other places. It's about Bali. And so the stores and where you buy things from are focused on Bali. And so maybe there's this aspect of your community. Maybe it's too broad. Maybe over time you can figure out how to tighten it up so people feel like, hey, if I ask this question, people aren't going to be like, well, maybe there's a little bit of, I'm speculating here, obviously I don't know, but maybe there's some embarrassment, like, oh, I have this problem, I don't want to ask the group. And probably things along the lines of maybe doing more, again, I'm speculating, but if I think about it, like there's maybe not enough camaraderie between people. So maybe doing more video community building calls where it's like a Zoom call with 50 people or whatever. So people can start putting some faces to the names. And that's why we're doing the meetup events. And so it's not always this online thing. It's actually, I know that person. Like I met Detlev says tonight, he said, oh, we've had conversations before. I wouldn't have known that at all until he said it. So now I have a face to the name, and maybe the same thing there where you can foster just a deeper connection amongst the people. And obviously there's lots of tools to do that. So maybe it's something like that, and you can reach out to me afterwards and we can talk more about it. I also love strategy. So I started thinking about like, actually, how do I technically do that? Or what's the strategy for this or that? But those are the things I might look into. Start with ChatGPT.
Well, I don't see a question. I see rather a statement. Rob, I think I have to invite some of the guys to my house to see a Bali house, right? And not white shoe boxes.
Absolutely right.
Maybe we can do the next meetup at your house.
You're very welcome.
That's what I'm talking about. There it is. I was waiting for you.
I have tons of questions. Let's start with number one. So I run a 6,000 people online community called Monday Morning Motivation. We're mainly based in China, but we have people also abroad. So every Monday morning at 7 o'clock, we have a Zoom call, a speaker. The purpose is I just want people to start positively in a new day and week because we have so much negativity around us. I've been doing this for 5.5 years, but I've had difficulties to scale it, to grow it, change the concept, to get it, I don't know, just get to the next level. And I have a feeling that here in Bali, people could also benefit from it. Yes, it is online based, but it's exactly the same time zone. How can I make people in Bali benefit from this? Where would I get started? I have 6 more days here in Bali till I go back to China. But I might be here more often, and we also have other people who used to live in China, foreigners who are now in Bali.
So before you answer that question, what's your name, darling? Almira.
We're gonna talk. I'm definitely gonna talk to her. Don't worry.
No, but I'm not. But that's the thing. Like, so remember, I said earlier on that quite often the person sitting next to you is the person you've come to meet. I'm just highlighting that fact. I didn't know that, but it always happens.
You knew it.
Of course, I knew it.
I mean, I think he's motivation for some of the ideas. I mean, I think it's, again, that starting small. There is a strong connection between China and Bali. I've met quite a few different people, Chinese people who live in Bali and expats who have also lived in China and now are here in Bali for lots of different reasons. But, I mean, that topic lends itself to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs, which there's 1 million in Bali. And so you already have credibility, so probably it is having some events like this, having speakers, having something, just these small communities, because Bali is such a place where you can have an idea and it gets taken to the world very fast. Like if I was a musician, I'm not a musician, I'm not musically inclined at all, but Bali seems like a great place. You come here and all of a sudden your message goes out to the world. And so it is, if you have any idea, I think, like I have a regret of not coming to Bali when in my early 20s. I would have loved to, I should have come here and started a business and probably would have been a very different path in life. But something like that idea, it's a great place to start. The message gets spread far and wide much faster.
One quick answer, and it's a personal plug. So what we do here is we talk with the leaders, disruptors, change makers, stakeholders of 10 different industries here in Bali. So the network which I have is very orientated towards that. So afterwards, I'm sure there's things which I can share with you. But you have more questions, so please just fire away.
Thank you. As I'm new, more and more people are interested in real estate in Bali, and I've been wondering what are the best, like in terms of financial investment and thinking of the future, where would people invest in Bali?
Christian, give that man the microphone. Come forward, stand up. Come on, man. Be proud, Christian. Be proud, brother. Come on.
Woohoo! Where shall I build?
Round of applause for Christian, everybody. Round of applause. Okay. All right.
I think you know as well. I think you know the answer as well. Yeah, my name is Christian. I'm currently working with one of the property developers here. But it really depends about like what is your plan, what kind of type of properties you really want to build, and also what kind of land are you looking for freehold land, or are you looking for leasehold land, or are you looking for more specific to invest, or you invest in terms like you are looking for return of investments by getting people's living in that accommodation, or you are planning to actually just invest in land and build in community, because that's the way how it is. It depends. It's have a location in different way.
I have some people, they're like interested in this like Airbnb kind of stuff. I own it, I spend a couple of weeks per year in this place, and then I rent it out on Airbnb.
Well, it is interesting because most of the people who actually came to Bali after like 3 months stay here, they will looking to build that. I would say if you really want to put an Airbnb, maybe you should not go like towards somewhere outside of Canggu. Not in Canggu, it will be like towards like in the between Canggu to Nuanu, in the middle of the Saseh, Kedungu, maybe Tabanan, close to Tabanan or Tabanan area where Robert also in that. It is, I think would be good strategy because the community is just about to get started there, and usually based on the history of the markets, it's actually going towards to the north. And Bali is always switch. You need to remember on that. In the beginning of the early 1990 or something, I mean in the 90s, Kuta is one of the best. People are always going to Kuta, switch to Seminyak, switch to Canggu, and I think it will be going towards to Nuanu area when it's all the facilities is there. And yeah, I think it's about it. If you are looking for that, probably you should looking towards to that area, because Airbnb villas, small villas, it's start getting built in Sasa. If you see Sasa will be a lot of villas, small villas. But if you're looking for finished projects where you are just want to invest in finished project and then getting the people to manage, is that also you can actually come to the many accommodation, many property developers like in here's the one it's called Alex Villas, the one I work for, and the other one is the many like Mira as well. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Beautiful, Cristiano. So if you hand the mic back, thank you, Christian. Round of applause. hand mic back. Yeah. You have one more question. I know. Yeah, you're good. Okay.
I have one thing to add. One.
All right. Well, good. I was waiting for you. So if you have a question, do it, and then behind you afterwards. So I'll just put it behind you then. Yeah. Okay. One thing to add, and then I'll add one thing.
My quick answer is fine. Well, if you're not a surfer, just familiarize yourself where the best surfing beaches are, and then buy something as close to that beach as possible. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what made Bali famous. That's what's made all the other, at least not all, but many of the other cool places in the world is surfing. Byron Bay, the great places of Costa Rica, a lot of these places are all around surfing. So if you want that Airbnb and the longevity, I believe it's going to be around the closest you can be to the nice surfing areas.
Okay, I'm going to say something very controversial, and people are going to not like me for it, but this is how it is. So I sat down with one of the major investors in real estate last week, and we had a deep conversation, and Christian knows this as well, right? The vacancy rate of Airbnbs is in the toilet. And there's about 20,000 plus properties coming onto the market in the next 3 years. I wouldn't even bother with Airbnb, to be really fair and be really straight, because it's so much oversupply in the market that how are you going to actually get any kind of return from it? So I would think the opposite way. And I mean, for example, just to give you an example, so that particular group, I won't mention a name for the sake of argument, what they're investing in are hotels, 5-star hotels, because for them, they've done the modeling and they can see that the demand for that kind of property, and it holds its value far better than building another villa in another blah, 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 and so on and so on and so on. Now, personal opinion, putting that one aside, right, is, if you're going to be in Bali, and we addressed this early on in the conversation, think about, why not challenge yourself and think about, you've just got here, I know, but you already feel it because I can see you're an empathic person and I can feel you, right? Think about, what could I build that is in harmony with, that works with the environment, with this Trihita Karana that I mentioned before. What kind of property would that look like, right? Is it an existing property already there, which perhaps I can alter? So I don't need to go and grab more land. There's land already there. I have 3 friends, that's what they do. They go into existing properties. They're not putting anything else onto the market. And they'll basically, I guess renovate is the nicest word to put around it, and create something else within that space. I have other friends which are looking at, again, we've spoken about eco-retreats, and it's a very popular word, but there's so many different ways to do that. But that's another kind of line. Christian mentioned Tabanan already. He's working on a project with us as well. And, there, as I mentioned before, in the start of this conversation, we're looking at those 3 different aspects to it, right? So, what can empower smart farming, the next generation, right? What does that look like? Number 2, when it comes to existing tourism places, how can we, through that trail is very low impact on the land, and it's empowering ecotourism, but agro-tourism too, because then you're saying, right, well, come here, and actually by going on this Astung Karaway trail, you're actually, it's a personal journey. It's a spiritual journey in many ways, right? Whilst you're learning about Bali. So these sorts of things, and the final one is businesses with heart, right? So there's, in those 3 different areas, there are different investments that you can do. It doesn't have to be Airbnb. There's a lot of other options out there. Happy to take some time, but that's what comes up from me to you. But great questions. Thank you very much. You want to optimize it?
It can be Airbnb, but it's not the standard. Like an agro farm in Tabanan probably is going to have a reliable Airbnb occupancy rate, whereas a random Airbnb in Canggu or in Kuta or somewhere random is probably going to be in the dumps. But again, it goes back to that community. What is that Airbnb related to? Is it just a white box, or is it one of the eco farms or eco stay, or the what are the tent ones called? Glamping. Like I'm sure I'm not sure, but I would think their occupancy rates are quite high, or at least consistent. So again, it's back to that community aspect and not just being more noise, but providing value.
I'll give you one more example. Christian's got his hand up. It's coming to you later on, brother. One example, Rose. So, for example, dear friend, and work together as well. So they've created a school. You know the school? ProEd Global, Nuanu campus. So because it's using tents, right? If in 5 years, 10 years, the school was no more, this could be taken back and taken out. And the impact and footprint on the land is one that can regenerate. So it's regenerative already. So extremely low impact. It's not building another concrete box, right? This is glamping. So it's technically a tent. Right. So again, there's so many ways to look at this, and I agree with what he's saying. But by the way, I love this guy. I agree with what he's saying. But what I'm saying is that because I see you, right, and I see the enthusiasm, and I see it's not you, but I see the FOMO, right? I've heard about this, and this, but there's a big correction coming. I've been told reliably, right? It's coming. So think deeply before you do any kind of investment. Again, I think those three things we go back to, Tri Hitakarana, I think it's a beautiful framework to think about it. And it doesn't need to be X, it can be Y, it can be A. There's so many different ways to look at this and things to invest in local communities and things like this. We've got some hands going up. I think this one struck a nerve. All right. So all the hands are up. Sheesh. All right, fine. But he has a mic. And then we go from you to you to you and then to Christian. Over to you, brother.
Yeah. You guys are really involved in the conversation. Everyone's motivated. I really like it. The same as the others, I wrote down so many questions. I'm so intrigued, and I'm just gonna start with a few. They're more or less linked, so we're gonna keep it short. That way.
Bring the microphone closer to your mouth.
Firstly, I wanted to ask. Of course, you're not Indonesian. What were like the complications of coming here? Because of course, starting a business, and I think especially something like real estate, without knowing the local language, makes it way harder for a foreigner. For example, when it comes to price negotiating and stuff like this, it's probably way harder. And also linked to this, do you think the future of Bali is as bright as it has been until the past? I think when I moved here, I didn't expect it to be so overcrowded and so full. And do you think that might be corrected as well? Like there's just so many people a road can handle, and once it gets unbearable, I think there might not be that much growth unless they do very intense infrastructure development, roads, or something along those lines. So maybe I would like to know your takes on this.
Well, the first part of the first question, I think it depends where you've come from when coming here. If in average, I'm just going to use the United States, if somebody moved from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and landed in Bali, I'm sure there'd be an extreme culture shock. If you've probably been in Europe and then you come to Bali, there's just a little less. There's some similarities on some things. And I think a lot of it has to do with the background, just generally speaking about coming to Bali. But in terms of building, again, just thinking from a real tactical point of view, if you are going to build in Bali, one of my suggestions is, and I think it's what saved my wife and I a lot of time and energy, was as simple as not allowing our contractor to buy all the supplies for the villa. I went on and bought the toilets, the sinks, the wood, because I knew what quality was going into the villa. It was something I didn't really think was a big deal at the time, but having spoken with a lot of people in Bali Builders since then, a lot of people just hand all the work off to the contractor. The contractor has financial incentives to buy as lowest quality as they can. I'm not trying to do anything malicious, but they want to make that profit. So for us, that was a major thing that allowed us to have a villa that I understood the pricing in building it. I know that generally it's built quite well because I know what materials were bought. I don't expect to have any electrical issues anytime in the near future, but that could change after all this rain. Things like that. I know what went into it, and I see a lot of people handing that off to the contractor, and they don't really know what went into it at the end. So I think it's a real tactical topic, but I think that helped a lot.
So, quick one for me, when it comes to the legalities, like everywhere else, it's the quality of your advisors
100%
is the critical step. This man is your new advisor, by the way. Detlev's an advisor right over here, right? But the quality, yeah, of course you will, Detlev. It's your field. But yeah, the quality of the advisor can lead you through all of the red tape, the guidelines, the regulations, and so on. That would be my advice. I'm going to keep this answer short. Could you have another question?
Don't cut corners on the advisor. Yeah. It's better to overspend and have the correct answers in the beginning than try to go cheap.
So just slide it to Detlev quickly.
Just say something.
Right, and then we'll go back over here.
Yeah, very, very quick. I had projects, but more the very high-priced projects in the US and in England. But I come from Germany. And the building quality here is definitely better in general than in the US or in England. But control.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you very much.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
Pink lady, you too. Yeah, and then we'll go back to you, my Jakarta sister.
2 questions. To the sir in the front, I want to ask why. First, you just said that. The one that you just mentioned, that it's so much better here. I want to understand why from your perspective.
Why the quality is better here in Bali.
Yeah.
So that was the first question I just want to ask for you. But then the other one is, before the lady with the white dress, she said like, oh, Airbnb and like that. And I think that's really like the really big thing now. Like lots of people like, oh, I'm going to go to Bali. I'm going to do an Airbnb. Like I have friends like in Netherlands, in Thailand, all of them, they're all coming here for that, investing in that. And what would be your advice to these young people who are like looking and investing in Bali? Like how would you advise them? Because of course it's like about community building, but like how would you start if they're all with the mentality, I'm going to do booking.com, I'm going to do Airbnb, I'm going to do a villa. Like how do you kind of like implement in our brains how we can see this in a different way, if that makes sense?
Show them the vacancy rate. Sorry, go ahead. Detlev first. Yeah.
Well, building quality, you can see in Renon, for example. Renon is...
Renon Denpasar.
In Denpasar. And of course, then you can see it in all the bigger hotels. In Sano, you can also see it. And I cannot explain it to you. It's just a different tradition here to build more solid and in a higher quality. I mean, America is not well known for big building quality, and England also not so much. But Bali is really, I'm pretty impressed, and it's also a bit important for me that I have reliable contractors here. Yeah. And they are here. They are good. But control. Yeah.
What do you mean by that, control?
Yeah, you have to be there, or you have to have the right persons, and you have the right architect, and take it serious. Yeah, and it's good.
Right, can you pass to Miss Jakarta? The Christian, hold that. We're coming to you, brother. But Miss Jakarta.
Okay, let me just tell you all about my background. Okay, well, I'm from Jakarta, and like late 70, my parents used to take us holiday in Bali, and then 70 something, yeah. And then 1983, when I was finished high school, before I go to uni, I was travel, from Jakarta by bus with my friend, and I just love Bali. 1983, and long short story, I worked for Baring Securities, and then work for Jack Nicklaus Golf, and then make me travel, around the world, and then I still have connected with Bali, and I have a piece of land in Brouwer, in a long time ago. Don't ask how much, okay? Maybe you.
We
maybe
know
you,
how much.
Maybe you.
We're going to
haven't-
put it on the website straight
maybe-
after this.
Maybe you haven't born yet. Maybe.
Oh, that's a bit personal.
Sorry, it's okay, darling. No, what I'm saying.
You look young.
Sorry, darling. What I'm saying is like, yeah,
all
it's
good,
like
darling.
it's for me, like, you know. And now I'm 60. I would like to come back. I would like to come back to Bali because I love the community, and I have a dream. You know, I'm not gonna build boxes. Maybe here, maybe it's more like. maybe in here it's more not like a question. It's more like I need advice from you guys. You know, you guys expert, and I have a piece of land here and there, and I wanna build kind of like a community, and it's more like I don't want to call it like a retirement home. You know, it's more like maybe like eco village community sustainability, and building not white boxes is more like wooden house, which is I just started, and for my pension house, for my old house is in the North Canggu, in the middle of paddy field, and the house is built. I bought from Java. It's like 200 years old house, knocked down, and I bring it here. So, and I have a waste that I, you know, from the kitchen waste there. So I'm building that, started from there. And my question is, or help, you know, I have this land up in the north. I don't know what to do. I'm not rushing. And when I saw you advert about this, I was like, I have to go because I need some help. And the reason is so many people from North Bali, young, they just rush coming to Canggu, to Kuta, they want to work because they have no job there. And I wanna create community. I'm come back home to Indonesia, and then I'm from Jakarta, but I feel Bali is more my home for me, and I want to do something. One brain is not enough, so I'm come here to ask some help from you guys. Any advice open? Wow. So yes, it's like
Girl, I got goosebumps. Thank you.
yes.
You need tips from you.
And it's like you know, I need like nurse, healthcare, because I have my dream. I have my, you know, just little scratch what I want. It's basically making wooden house for the people coming all over the world, maybe from Jakarta, from Singapore, from UK. They want to retire in here. And of course, you know, I will have like a team, like a legal team, you know, to organize their visa when they arrive. And I have to organize the healthcare on site, make sure we have a clinic, we have like a store. So it's like basically, you know, I've been living in UK for 27 years. I know people, they go to home care, they pay so much money, and they just stay in the one room. They probably just like roll them to the conservatory. You know, it's nothing they can see. So I want to offer like people getting old doesn't mean then they just stop. They need a life. So I want to give their life to Bali. So I need your help, guys.
Wonderful.
I need your help, everyone.
Mamma mia.
I've got something to say.
All right.
A while back, I met this amazing.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
So there's two things. I know. So there's two things. So
Yes.
one is
Yes.
speak when you have a microphone. Otherwise, people can't hear you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you want to pass the microphone to her,
Yeah.
you can pass the
Okay.
microphone. Yeah. And then number one, keep it short-ish.
Yes, no
Okay? Because we're going to get more people giving more value.
I need to introduce you to someone. There's been a lot of conversations about Nuanu. I met this guy called A.B. Rogers from the UK a while ago, and he basically built out my dream. So I've got access to some land as well, which I'm building something else, but it's not about me. But the point is, he designed the concept was about hospital and schools, but the way he designs all of his architecture is from a place of how can we create based on psychology of what's going to be most beneficial and in service for the people. And I would love to share his details with you because he's built everything out. Like design is already there. You just gotta go do it. He's amazing, and he's from the UK as well. You would love him.
Sister, as I said to you, and you know this now, it doesn't matter about the size of the audience. There's always a connection, and again, it's the one sitting next to you. So we had the microphone too. You got Mr. Carter. We got Christian. I think was the one. Yeah. So keep it short and sweet, my brother.
Alex is my neighbor.
Alex Yeah.
Go, Christian.
Hi. I know that everyone is actually exciting to construct right now, but the problem is our government, Indonesian government, start making a new existing rules, which is new. When you trying to build a PMA companies, and KBLI is not possible for construction anymore, and for the construction between which not for the land.
KBLI, just explain that to people quickly so you don't lose them.
So the KBLI is the lease when you're having a PMA company saying like whether you are able to put your company and eligible for construction. You need to have
so like a license to be able to do that thing. Yeah.
But basically, like in your company, is just like there is a like statements you can construct or real estates because and also there is moratorium where it's going to be it's already in place, and also the last thing is about the way how we do the PBG and SLF for the PBG and SLF or ISS. And I think it's something what we need to look at because it's right now because the moratorium and the PBG and SLF it's very hard to get for a South Bali. PBG is permitted for you to SLF before you build, and then PBG is after finished. Then you need to actually have that. And for sure, there are many big many big developer in here, which is have problems on that. We're not going to that topics, but I just want to let you know because it's many people who want to construct, especially for the south of Bali. We're not talking about like north. We're talking about the south one where everyone is actually here and have an interest on that because many big companies right now have suffer the problems. We are in process, but we still have like some issue. Even like big Fins still in process for the PPG and SLF. Atlas, no Fins. Yeah.
All right. So just to break it down real quick. So what Christian is basically saying is that you need people in your team who are up to speed with regulations. Right? So that's what we're saying prior to all of this, which we're going to bring this man back in a second. It really is about having a good team. So the team is about your advisors. Who is advising you on these things? For each one, you have great advisors, you have terrible advisors, you have those who say to know, but they don't. So one of the keys is to know who to refer to. That's actually a key. All right.
And that is part of your journey and adventure in Bali is finding those key people. That is all a self journey we all have to go through because it's all about word of mouth, but sometimes that word of mouth can be wrong and that's part of the adventure and journey is finding the people that work for you to get the right answers.
Now, does anyone else have something to add? Because we're going to begin to wrap this up. Make it sweet and brief, Cristiano. Yeah.
Last one is about people who want to do more in Airbnb. To be honest with you guys, Airbnb the market is used to be in 2014 till now, it's probably okay. You can actually do that and you will make so much money on that. But if it like right now, there are already so many in here. Or so many are especially in south of Bali, and there are so many villas which is finished product, but they don't have the occupancy rate is not there. So it's about like if you actually planning and really want to do it, the Airbnb really need to watch on how you can service the peoples and on the pricing. Otherwise, it's very hard to actually compete with the existing company. Even Alex Villa is actually or have run in Airbnb, so they have their kind of standards using a hotel similar to the hotel management operators. So that's kind of things. What I want to say, it's more about like if you don't want to lose the money, because I have a couple of friends who they came like 3 months ago and then they already run in Airbnb, but the occupancy rate is not as they expected. So yeah, that's what.
Give us a number, Cristiano. 'Cause I know you got the numbers. Don't be scared. Tell him the truth. It's okay.
Well, he has 3-bedroom villas. The numbers is like lower than 70%. What he's expecting, it's around 90 as the other people's living in here. And when he's trying to lower the price to be very competitive with everyone, the margin what he's paying is not so much. So it's really tough for him to do that. But well, before he started that, I already said to him, you need to have a very good market research before actually doing that for Airbnb stuff. So yeah.
Thank you, Cristiano. Now back to our guest. I know he wants to add to it.
I was just going to add that I speculate the days are gone. It's like the early days of crypto where you could just buy anything and it went up and you made money. It's past the Airbnb market here in Bali. I speculate it's past that. I do think there's still plenty of opportunities if you approach it from a business point of view and you find the right property at the right size. If it's, I think 3 bedrooms are probably a harder thing to do Airbnb than a 1 bedroom. Finding a nice 1 bedroom at the right price. You just have to, I think, come at it from a business point of view. And I think there's still probably lots of opportunities out there. It's just take your time, like any business. If you're going to buy a business or start a business, you do the proper research and making sure it works. The numbers like generally generally work, and then you have a greater potential for success. But if you just go in and you rent the quickest thing you can find for 3 years and hope to make a bunch of money, I think those days are probably long gone.
Yeah. So look, as we begin to wrap up, there's one last question I'm going to ask you, but you've got about 2 minutes to think about it. So it's good timing. It's good
Ask the question.
It's all good, brother. So the question will be, also let people know how they can find Bali Builders after this, but also tonight's topic, right? It was about building communities which are problem-led, right? So we've kind of explored that. We also kind of digressed a little bit into deep into human conditioning and patterning, which I love this topic, by the way, as well. But I think that's part of it. I think it's all connected. We also, spoke about the use case. Being here, we live in Bali, and the real use case or the real challenge or obstacle of how can we, or how can development happen at the same time as preserving culture, and how that operates. We've also gone into, which areas of the market, and we've had a few examples of people coming saying, right, I've heard about the Airbnb market here is amazing, I want to jump into it, right? And we've also kind of seen and deconstructed that one a little bit, and it's not. Right, it's just not. I mean, I would give you numbers, but I don't want to scare you. But what I would say again, and you said, when it comes back to it, do your due diligence, do your research, and make sure whatever you do, have the right advisors around you. I'm going to plug myself. I know who the right advisors are, but that's not a story for another day. I have interviewed, like 460 people, many of them in real estate, so I've got a good handle on things. But get good advisors. Key. So now coming back to you, the question in about 2 minutes, which I'd love you to answer, is, if there's anything that you'd like to reiterate, or anything that comes up about tonight's topic or about Bali Builders that you think would be value for those listening or those sitting here, please feel free. Now, to you, so remember, SpeakuP Monday, we're here every Monday at Tropical Nomad, in person and online. It goes basically simultaneously as a live stream to Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So you can join those different communities. Just go to SpeakuP Monday. We have a WhatsApp group that gives you about 5 to 6 days notice on what's coming up. So feel free to the QR code somewhere over there that you can join that. So if you haven't joined it, Get in that one there. And then finally, next week, so people would have heard of the Ragam Foundation, Ragam Foundation and the work they do. Very powerful social impact. So Bhavna, who is a co-host that introduced some time ago, but she hasn't been around recently. Bhavna will be interviewing the founder, Nick from Ragam Foundation. So if you're here next week and this interests you, just do a little Google search. The work they do is extremely important and extremely powerful. So next week will be more like you, my darling. It'll be a deep dive into what kind of makes us human. I'm getting little goosebumps saying about that. So make sure you come if that's what you like. Yeah. What else can I say? Yep. So my name is Robert Ian Bonnick, the founder of SpeakuP Monday, gateway to Indonesia. So we do three things really, really well. One is it's all about feasibility, and whether you have a question, a challenge, a product, a service, we're able to really advise you on that immersively. Another one is that if you have a project already existing, so for example, we just did Bali Ocean Days, which is a preeminent 2-day conference on all things to do with the ocean in Indonesia. What we do there is that we optimize from the lead up to presenting on stage and as an MC, bringing the whole thing together, to after, how do you optimize and maximize to make one annual event into an all-year event, right? So this is what we do. And the third and final thing is, you remember Nokia connecting people? So we're Nokia connecting people and projects together. But again, it comes through this Trihita Karana, Gotong Royong, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, as I went through in the very beginning. It's very powerful that what we do has a positive impact, all right? So, Robert Ian Bonnick, you'll find it in all the different channels. So, my brother, thank you to you for coming. You're almost there. And so I'll let you have your time. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to Guzman Hades from Tropical Nomad for being our technical partner all these 260 episodes, 460, well, 280 here. Okay, over to you, brother.
Oh, well, thank you for having me tonight. It's been a fun adventure. So to find Bali Builders, you can go to joinbalibuilders.com. That's the easiest way to find it without already being part of the community. But back to your question, I think it's been really interesting. I think I approached tonight, well, what I have observed is I think we all have different concepts of what that word community means, which is good. And I think what we can all take away from this is we all have our own definition of community. And what I mean by that is I look at community from probably a more business transactional point of view, or at least prior tonight. And you're about the community, whereas I'm sort of like a community. Nothing, they're just what they are. But we've had a fabulous conversation with that subtle difference where you're talking about the local community or the community of Bali. And I was talking about, or not talking about, but at the frame of reference of a community as a business or a transactional point of view. And so it's fascinating that we've all had different inputs on that. And I think what we can all take away from that is whatever community means to you, you can grow it, and it is powerful, and it is what will unite us and I think help humanity, to like the community that you want to build, to communities that you already have. It's just about strengthening those communities and seeing where they go and making an impact.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much, Gabe. Bali Builders. See you next week.